Welcome to Orientation to Biblical Studies. I'm Dr. Todd Brenneman. I'll be the instructor for this course. Look forward to interacting with all of you. Looking forward to this semester and the things that we'll be discussing and looking over. In this video, what I want to focus on is discussing the assignments, give you an overview of the course, talk about some things in general that you'll be expected to do during this course and give you some background with respect to that. I would encourage you to take some time and look over the syllabus for the course. We'll hit the highlights in this video, but I would definitely encourage you to look at the syllabus available on Blackboard so that you have a good understanding of what is all expected this semester. Feel free to certainly reach out to me and get in contact with me if you have questions, things that maybe are a little confusing or things that I don't fully explain in this video, so that I can help you figure out what you're doing and what you need to do. So let's go ahead and talk about the course. Orientation to Biblical Studies is a course for Bible majors predominantly. If you are not a Bible major, you're certainly welcome to take the course, but our focus is going to be on people who are preparing for a degree in Biblical Studies, whether that is through ministry or youth and families ministry. In some sense, all of those people we consider Bible majors. So what are we going to be doing in this course? Well, there are a couple things that we do in this course. As you can probably guess from the name of the course, it is an orientation. It's an orientation specifically to the academic field of biblical studies. And so we'll be talking about some of the differences between the academic field of biblical studies and what we might consider Bible study from a church or personal devotional type of standpoint. We'll talk about, where some of those places, there's some places that are overlapping between those, but then also some of the distinction between what we mean by biblical studies in an academic sense. We're also in this course kind of giving you some introduction to aspects that will be explored in more detail, in greater detail, in other courses and in other years of the program. But we're especially trying to get you to begin thinking Christianly, theologically, about your academic pursuits, why you're looking into getting a degree, biblical studies, what does that mean, your goals in ministry, and thinking about how some critical reflection based in some theological principles can help you as you go through this process and prepare for ministry. And also to begin to encourage you to think reflectively about ministry. It seems to be the case more frequently in recent years that as ministry jobs are announced, as a congregation's looking for a minister, they want to see what a person's philosophy of ministry is. What is ministry all about to you? What do you think about when you think about ministry? To see if they are kind of a fit for that particular congregation. And so this is an opening attempt to get you to think about, what is it that you think about when you think about ministry, what ministry is all about, and then also what kind of talents and strengths do you bring to ministry, things that you already recognize in yourself right now, but then also, thinking about some weaknesses. What are some weaknesses that you might have? Whether that's personal, spiritual, or kind of from an academic standpoint, right? I don't know XYZ about certain aspects of ministry. And so, a place where you could use some more academic knowledge. And then finally, the focus of this course, another focus of this course is learning to do research in biblical studies. I recognize that most of the people that take this course are not planning on going into any graduate work, further work in academic biblical studies. Most people that come through to get a Bible major are looking to go into ministry. Now, many of them do eventually decide to get a graduate degree, many of them in Bible or ministry, sometimes in counseling as well. But we believe that it's important for students to learn how to do research for a couple of reasons. First, for those that are wanting to do a more academic approach, really get into the original languages, want to get into master's, a PhD in biblical studies, these are some beginning skills that you will need for that pursuit. A second reason to do it is that even for those who decide they are never going to get a graduate degree, they're never going to have to do research ever again, well, you're going to do some sort of research. There's going to be some sort of question that you will encounter either in your own study or a question that comes up that you're asked by somebody in a congregation you're ministering to, and you'll have to do some research. Now, it's not going to be a full-blown research paper, and it's not going to be maybe end up anything that you are going to publish anywhere, but you're going to need to have some idea about, or where do I go for information? How do I determine what information is accurate? Which is, of course, more important now than maybe it was in previous years, thinking about, is this accurate information? And so the skills that you will be developing in the process of this course related specifically to academic biblical studies may not necessarily be exact skills, right? We'll talk about, for example, citation in biblical studies, how you cite journal articles, how you cite books. You may never have to do that again, but some of the skills in, thinking, critical thinking, organization, right? Those kind of skills will be transferable, even if you don't even go into ministry. If you go into a completely unrelated field, get a job in something else, some of these skills will transfer, right? And some of the thinking processes that you have to develop will be useful in other situations. And so that's part of why we think this course is important. That no matter what you are planning on doing as a career, there will be some aspect of this that you can apply in your career, in your life, even if the exact processes have to be kind of interpreted. And so it's like, I'm not looking to cite a journal article, but I'm looking to discover such and such, and so I recognize I need to do these kind of steps. And so hopefully you'll find this course valuable even beyond maybe some of the specific things we'll be doing. Over the course of the weeks for this class, you'll be, or we'll be together, going through a couple of different topics. We'll start off first by looking at some basic things about ministry and biblical studies. We'll think about what the academic field of biblical studies is, begin to get you thinking about some theological principles about ministry, and from that then moving into thinking theologically, thinking about, how do I move from, understanding what the text says to making some application. Again, a lot of this is just kind of laying some foundation for what you'll do in other courses. One of the courses you'll have to take, of course, is biblical interpretation, and the entire course is focused on those aspects of exegesis, finding out what the text originally meant, making application in contemporary situations. But this will help begin some of that process. And then move into talking about the research aspect. And the research aspect will be a sizable chunk of the course time. And we'll think about what kind of sources to use in research, how do you go about doing a research project, and then also thinking about presenting that research project, and you'll be making presentations. And then we'll also begin thinking of applying some of these things in ministry, and thinking about some things related to ministry as we get closer to the end of the semester. There are 3 textbooks for this course. The Bible, of course. I don't have a particular version that I'm requiring, so whatever you necessarily feel comfortable with. If you have a personal preference for a translation, at some point we'll be talking about different aspects related to translations. I tend to use the New Revised Standard Version. Sometimes I'll also use the English Standard Version, but if you have a preference for a different translation, that's fine for what we'll be doing in this class. You'll also need to get a copy, if you haven't already, of Nancy V. Meister and Terry Robertson's Quality Research Papers for Students of Religion and Theology. I believe there might be already a new edition. If not, there's one coming out soon, but that's something that you'll want to get a hold of, because we'll be talking about some aspects related to some of the things that come out in that textbook, because a lot of the focus in that textbook is on how do you go about research, thinking through some of the research type of processes. The third book is Howard Stone and James Duke's How to Think Theologically. It is in a 3rd edition. The preference would be to get a hold of the 3rd edition. There is an older edition. Obviously, it's the 3rd edition. You could probably still work with the 2nd if you got a hold of it, but it'd be better to have the 3rd edition. In the syllabus, of course, there is a section talking about the objectives. What are the objectives of the course? Essentially, the idea here is to give you an idea of what should you be able to do, or what am I expecting you to be able to do by the end of this course. And so some of this we've already basically talked about, the various disciplines in biblical studies. We'll talk about church history and ministry and practical theology and a variety of things related to that, how that connects with ministry. Thinking about how that academic component will impact your ministry. And then we'll talk about some of the things related to research. Now, it would be great if at the end of the course I could just say, can you do these things? And you say, yes, I can do those things, and I give you an A. That'd be fantastic, but we can't do that. So there are a variety of assignments that will be used to give you the opportunity to demonstrate your ability to perform or to achieve those objectives, to be able to demonstrate those things that were just on the previous screen. We'll be engaging in some practical assignments. These will be assignments that are connected with the research process. There'll be a ministry reflection essay. There'll be a research paper, and then a midterm and final exam. Let's talk about each of these in a little bit more detail. As I kind of mentioned already, the practical assignments are meant to help you understand what you need to do in the research and writing process. So they will be assignments spaced throughout the course. They'll be available on Blackboard. that will be similar to what you will need to do in the research process. So for example, there'll be assignments asking you to use the library's website to find specific sources. And then, talk a little bit about what those sources are to demonstrate, hey, I was able to find them. So it'll be some things like that that will hopefully give you the chance to practice some of the skills we'll be talking about in some of the video lectures. Right? I'll show you, for example, how to navigate the library's website to find the information you're looking for, and then one of the practical assignments will be related to demonstrating that you can do that as well. And so there'll be a variety of those throughout the semester. So second assignment is related to, or second set of assignments is related to a ministry reflection essay, or I'll sometimes refer to it as a philosophy of ministry. I need to make one correction here. I apologize that I missed this when I was preparing for this video, and I'll make that correction here in a minute. There will be a preliminary ministry reflection due early in the semester, where I will ask you to, kind of where are you now when it comes to ministry, thinking about, your views on ministry, your goals, how the biblical studies major fits into that. And then at the end of the course, I'll ask you to rewrite that and incorporate insights from the semester. In previous semesters, I've required students to read a book called Excellence. I will not require you to do that, and so I forgot to change this slide, and so I apologize for that. But I do want you to rewrite that final exam based on insights from the semester. What are some things that you've learned in the semester that have, it might not be a major change in how you think about ministry, but maybe some additional information or some additional things to think about that you can incorporate to your ministry. And so you'll have the opportunity to write an original version, kind of a preliminary version, and then a final version. And after that preliminary version, I will give you some feedback, tell you some things to some places to develop more, some things to think about, and then of course, expecting you to incorporate some insights. And the other thing to be mindful of is that you're going to submit that preliminary essay. And sometimes I have students that basically submit the same essay at the end of the semester with hardly any changes. Well, it might have been a high B or an A paper in the beginning of the semester. But if you've not made any changes, now you're looking at a C or a D paper, right? So you can submit the same thing, just realize that it could be an A paper at the beginning and a C paper at the end because you didn't incorporate any insights. So I'm really looking for you to think about, okay, what are some of the things that I've learned this semester that I can, reshape some of the things. It might not be an entirely new paper at the end of the semester, but it should be, significantly reworked based on some things that you've learned. One of the major assignments in this class, of course, is the research paper. The research paper will be based on a specific text in the Bible, so it's going to be limited to a biblical text. It's even going to be further limited to a set of texts. There will be a list of possible texts for you to choose from on Blackboard. These texts that I have chosen are chosen because there is some sort of a challenge or problem related to them. And so one of the things you're going to have to do is discover what the problem is, right? We'll take a class later on down the line and talk about them. But what you're going to be doing is pulling together evidence on, let's say, both sides of the issue, and trying to come up with a conclusion. All right, what's your conclusion based on the information? If you do not want to choose one of those texts, you have to choose a biblical text. But if you don't want to choose one of the ones that I have listed on Blackboard, you can choose anything else except for John chapter 7, 53 through 8:11, which is the woman taken in adultery passage, and John chapter 20, verses 30 and 31. The reason John chapter 7 through 8:11 is out is that is the passage I will be using as an example throughout the semester. And so we'll be going through different aspects of the research paper using that specific passage. And secondly, you can't use John chapter 20 verses 30 and 31 because I have included in the Blackboard site an example research paper done in a previous semester, an A paper. I have the permission of the student. I've left it anonymous, but that's the example paper I'm sharing with you for you to see what kind of things I'm looking for in a research paper. And so, to kind of prevent, recopying that paper, you cannot use that passage either. So if you don't want to use one of the passages in the list, you'll need to discuss with me what passage you want to use. It needs to be a passage that has some sort of challenge in it. Choosing John 3:16, for example, right? For God so loved the world, right? That's not a passage that you can choose. All right, if you come to me and say, I want to do John, 3:16. No, that's not really a passage that has some challenges with it. And so I'm looking for you to focus on passages that have some difficulties. The reason is that will give you more information to draw from as you're preparing for this paper. The paper will need to be 2,500 words. That is basically about 10 pages, but we're doing a word count instead of a page count. That would include a bibliography as well as any footnotes that you do. So 2,500 words is your content, your footnotes, the citation, as well as the bibliography. So about 10 pages. The focus of the paper will be on your content, yes. What did you pull together all the appropriate information? But there will also be a sizable part of the grade will be based on, did you follow the formatting and citation styles that are appropriate for biblical studies? And we'll spend several classes going over those aspects. So that's an important part. There's not as much of a concern, for example, about formatting and citations for the ministry reflection essay, because that's more of a reflective essay, where this is more of a research paper. We'll be saying much more about the research paper as we go throughout the semester. So you'll hear more about that. But if you have any questions at any time, feel free to get in contact with me. There will be 2 exams, as I mentioned, a midterm about midway through the course, and then a final exam at the end of the course. The midterm exam will consist of a variety of different questions. You can have some multiple choice, some short answer. There will be an essay on there as well, kind of a short essay, 7 to 10 sentences, not pages. I'll provide a study guide at least 2 weeks before the exam before the exam, to kind of give you an idea of what kind of things to focus on as you prepare for the exam. So we'll say more about that It will focus only on, obviously, the material we've covered up to that point. The final exam will be at the end of the course. A majority of the exam will focus on information since the midterm, but there will be some parts that are comprehensive. The parts that are comprehensive will be bigger ideas and not as much some of the little details that you would have to know for the midterm exam or for some parts of the final. So it's not like you'll have to remember everything throughout the course, but the focus is on some bigger ideas that we'll continually address throughout the course. It'll be very similar in format and the question types to the midterm exam. Be a little bit longer. You'll have a little bit longer time to do it, and there'll be a study guide there as well. And again, we'll say more about that as we get closer to the time of the final exam. I tend to do my assignments out of 1,000 points. So for the total possible points you could get throughout a semester is 1,000 points. And you see there how it's broken down. Attendance and participation, which is basically watching the video lectures, submitting notes on those, participating in discussion boards, right? So that's out of 100 points. The practical assignments, 100 points. The preliminary ministry essay and the final ministry essay, each 100 points. The research paper, and then the 2 exams, each out of 200 points, for a total of 1,000 possible points. Now, there's 2 reasons that I do my grades out of points rather than percentages. One of those, the first one, is because at any point in the semester, you can figure out where you are, what you need to do, and what's left to get the grade you want to get. And it's just addition and subtraction. When you have percentages, like the research paper is worth 15%, for example, then you got to figure out, you got to multiply and then divide, and oh, I don't want to do that. Addition and subtraction, that's what we got. So by the time we get to the midterm, you say, okay, I have 400 points here, and I want to get an A in the class. So what do I need to do on these other assignments in order to get an A in the class? The other reason I do my courses out of 1,000 points is that no one particular assignment is going to destroy your grade. So even if you do poorly on the midterm exam, there are other opportunities for you to kind of counteract that so that you can still do well. So no one particular assignment is going to destroy your grade. Now, if you aren't doing the notes and you're skipping the practical assignments and you do poorly on the research paper, yes, it all begins to add up. But no one particular thing is going to throw you off for the semester. But if you slack off, if you're not doing your work, it is going to add up. This is the grading scale. So 1,000 to 900 points is an A, 899 to 800 is a B, etc. So that gives you an idea of what you need to do, what you need to get in order to get the various grades. A couple of other policies to be aware of. The focus in online courses, most online courses, is more on participation rather than attendance. The way the course is set up, and then a lot of online courses are set up this way, is that within each week there is a certain amount of work that needs to be done. And so you can do that work within that week, right? As long as it's done by Sunday, right? By the end of the day, that's fine. And so the focus is more on, has a student participated in a particular week, rather than is a student been in a class at a specific time. Now, there are some online Bible classes where we encourage, highly encourage, online live participation. For example, in our language courses, right? That it's highly encouraged that you're in class, that you're live at a specific time. But for this class, there isn't a live component. It's just what's called asynchronous, where you can work on it on your own time. So participation from week to week is largely made up of two things. There's some discussion boards where you're kind of reflecting on some questions related to some of the stuff we've discussed in a specific week, and the submission of your notes. Every week, there will be videos for you to watch. I'm trying to make sure that I'm trying to cut them down into chunks of 15 to 20 minutes. Can't do that with all of them. I have some videos for you to watch that are kind of like guest lectures. These are by various people, and so those videos are housed by other institutions, other people, and so I can't cut them down, can't edit them like that. So they will be a little bit longer. But each week you will need to submit notes from those videos. Kind of like you would in a classroom, right? You would be taking notes during a lecture. The notes need to be submitted online. There's a space on Blackboard each week for you to submit those notes. The notes should demonstrate that you've watched the videos. So they're showing me that you've watched the videos, but also, these are the things you're going to be studying for the exams for. So, they need to be pretty extensive. I'm not looking for you to just hit the bullet points from PowerPoint, but getting the sense of what's talked about. So you can either submit those notes, or you can submit a summary of at least 500 words of the videos for each week, so that it demonstrates to me that you've watched the videos. Kind of like I could see if we were in an actual classroom, a live classroom. Okay, I can see you're in class. I can see you're in class. So this is demonstrating that you're involved, engaged in the material. So you need to submit those notes each week based on the number of videos that are in the different playlists for that week. Because we are going in a synchronous type of format where you have an entire week to complete a certain amount of work, there's not a lot of opportunity for makeup work, like if you missed a live class or face-to-face class, for example. If you have some sort of excused absence, especially for the exams, we can make some arrangements. But, other things come up in a semester that could impact your ability to, work in on time. That could be some family issues. That could be some illness, either yourself or some others in your household. If you get into a position where you are struggling to keep up, by all means, contact me, reach out to me, let me know what I can do to help you, stay on target or get back on track. There are more options for me the earlier you can get in contact with me than there are if you're waiting until the last week before class. So try to contact me as soon as possible. So we can make arrangements with any sort of makeup work that you might need to do. When I return grades to you, if you believe that there's been some sort of error in the grading, either something wasn't totaled up correctly, or you believe that that for example, let's say an essay, of the reflection essay, right? And I say, oh, you didn't discuss such and such, and you say, oh, it's right here in paragraph 5. Right? Feel free to get in contact with me if you have a concern about how something was graded. I'm more than willing to look back over grading. I'm human. I make mistakes. I might miss something. I might make an error. So if you think something doesn't look right with your grade, or if you'd like an explanation for your grade, or if you think it needs to be regraded, feel free to get in contact with me. The university policy is you need to contact me within 3 days after it's returned to you. So once you get it back, you need to, you have 3 days there. I try to get things back within a week. Sometimes I'm able to do it more quickly, but I try to do within a week, and then, so it would be 3 days after that. We'll spend some time throughout this course talking about some elements of academic honesty, but I think it's appropriate to say some things at the beginning of the course to just set the stage for this semester. I really want to encourage you to make a decision up front that you're going to approach this course with integrity, that you're going to demonstrate academic honesty, and that you are going to do your best to keep your integrity intact. And so specifically for this course, that means, presenting your work, and if you are using someone else's work, giving them the appropriate credit. And so we're talking about things like, plagiarism, taking somebody else's ideas or words and using them and presenting them as your own. So, we'll be talking more about how to avoid that. But what I want to see is you do your best work. Now, that does include, especially for like the research paper, incorporating other people's work, but giving them the appropriate credit. We'll talk about the idea of plagiarism as literary theft, but in some very important ways, because a lot of you that are taking this course are going to be ministers. You need to be a minister of integrity. I mean, I need to be a minister of integrity. I need to be a teacher of integrity. But what kind of minister can you be if you are willing to take somebody else's work, present it as your own, and not give them credit, and think that that's acceptable? I mean, that says a lot about a person's character. And so what I want to encourage you to decide ahead of time is to decide to be a person of character if you haven't already. Right? And hopefully you have already. But as a minister of Jesus Christ, you must uphold integrity, and so and exhibit integrity. So please keep that in mind. There have been situations where I've had to address this with academic consequences. Somebody failing a paper, sometimes somebody failing a course. I really do not want to have to do that. And I'm sure you don't want to have to go through that. So please decide. It is better to turn something in that is a poor example of work, but it is a work of integrity, than it is to submit something that is fantastic, that is somebody else's, and that you're lying about. So please keep that in mind with the work that you do in this class. If you need academic accommodations due to a documented learning disability or other type of disability, you probably already know to get in contact with the Center of Disability Services or the Center for Disability Services. Please make sure to do that as soon as possible. Want to make sure that you're getting started successfully so you can finish successfully. So they'll provide me, of course, with what kind of accommodations would be helpful for you. So please make sure as soon as possible to get in touch with Disability Services so that they can work with you and develop solutions for you that they can then share with me, and so the three of us can work together for your success. Now, this is an online course, and so predominantly, and most of the people that are taking this online course are not in the Montgomery area, Montgomery, Alabama area where I am. So you probably won't be stopping by my office, although certainly if you are in the Montgomery area or if you're passing through, you are welcome to. But I am in my office Monday through Thursday, 11:15 to 12:30. And you are welcome to stop by. Again, if you if you are in the area, or if you're not in the area, feel free to call me. The phone number is in the syllabus. Be in the office at those times. I'm also available at other times if you need to talk to me right then, in the sense of I need to kind of communicate with you back and forth. But you are more than welcome to email me and contact me that way. I try to answer my emails within 48 hours. In many cases, I try to answer them within 24 hours. But certainly, if you have not heard from me within 48 hours, feel free to email me again. It could be that I've overlooked something. It could be that something happened in the transmission of your email. So please feel free to get in contact with me again. I try to check my email pretty regularly during the day, maybe less so on weekends, but I still try to keep with it if necessary as assignments start becoming due. And certainly it might be a little bit longer if it's a particular holiday or something like that. But I try to keep up with my email and respond as quickly as possible. Looking forward to a great course. I hope that the things that we study together, look at together over the course of the semester will be useful for you. And I look forward to getting to know you a little better. So I would encourage you, if you haven't already done so, please go to Blackboard, to the discussion board, and introduce yourself. Say a little bit about who you are, what your plans are, hobbies, whatever you're interested in sharing with me, with the rest of the class, and so we all can kind of maybe make some connections, even though we are going through this process virtually. I hope you have a great semester, and I am more than willing at any time to communicate, to do my best to help you succeed.